So welcome everybody to Four Pointed. It is a talk show, Gears and Gears related, Gears esports and Gears related. I'm Ashes. With me, I have, you know him. He needs no introduction. The one and only Colin, TheCrow, Clarke.
You embarrass me. You embarrass me right now. I'm turning red out here. I can't believe I got that kind of introduction from one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT. I mean, even not as a player. I think all said and done, you're gonna end up on a Mount Rushmore, because I know they're just for presidents, and most people might say they're just for players. But by God, what you've been able to do with all the different teams you've been able to do it. I know you've had two stalwarts for most of your career, but in the fashion in which you've done it, the domination in which you've had, and the way that you've gone into the community, and you've let the community be a part of that pro scene by doing your Impress Me series. You've given them tips and tricks. I mean, my God, is there anything you can't do in this game? Is there anything you can't do? And if you tell me it's play at the highest level, I'm calling BS right now, because you've been standing behind five of the best for all your career. So I know you got something up the sleeve. I know you got something up the sleeve.
Look, man, you gassed me up, and I'm gonna need that whole recording as like an alarm clock every morning, so I just wake up like ready to go.
You bust through the door, bust through the wall of your breakfast nook. It's not even the door anymore. You just bust through the wall of your breakfast nook like the Kool-Aid man.
I'm literally gonna be ripping my shirt in the morning, like, oh, let's go, Colin. You're not even gonna be in the room. But welcome everybody. This is Four Pointed. This is the show where we talk about four major points going on within the Gears scene, the Gears esports scene. Colin really is the GOAT. I agree with you, Flaccavelli. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you to everyone who's following. Again, Zahner for subscribing to the stream. We appreciate you. This is going to be hopefully a weekly series that Colin and I do. I don't know if we have a set day yet, because the schedule is kind of wacky in terms of we got an online major next week.
Got an online major this week if you're in the EU.
Yeah, true. You guys got to get ready in the EU scene. So yeah, that's the plan. Four Pointed. We want to cover the points that you guys want to hear about. So if you guys have feedback at some point, let us know. This is an inaugural episode. We're gonna look like we're lost and still look cool doing it. So at least this guy is dressing up. I'm wearing a band t-shirt. You're wearing a sports coat. I'm
not gonna lie to you, I didn't know that was a band. I really thought it was like a It Chapter 2 special or some shit. Like It Chapter 3 coming soon, and you were leaking it on stream to the fans.
Oh yeah, I partnered with It Chapter 3. No, it's a band, but they wrote a song like about it, and so the shirt is themed off of, like, I've got a demented clown on my back. So
okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were just talking about me for a second. I was like, I'll get off your back, Dave. I'll get off your back. Ain't no problem.
No, you're I can't make any. I was gonna make a joke, and then I realized how bad it would sound. So without further ado, we can go ahead and move into our first point, the Pro League Finals. We've got the last week of the North American Pro League coming up in 2 days, right? Said today's Friday, so Saturday, Sunday,
yeah,
2
Saturday,
days.
Sunday.
We had a crazy week last week. Unfortunately, I have to give credit where credit is due. Parallax pulled up. They beat us in a very confident and convincing fashion. So shout out to those guys for doing their thing. But let's talk about the rest of the matches. I've pulled up the results here on my other monitor so I can just kind of remember everything that happened. But do we have anything exciting that we're looking forward to next or this coming Sunday?
My final match on stream on Sunday is going to be an absolute banger. I got Parallax and Rise as my final game of the week. So I expect both those teams. Right now, I think Parallax is playing the better Gears of War. I just think Rise has to find themselves in the correct form. I think Parallax has got a lot of good strats.
Mm-hmm.
I really, and I think they've got a lot of great, how do I put this? They have something that a lot of teams don't right now, and I think your team and their team have it in spades. I think the third team in that would be Quarantine, but I think y'all and Parallax have the best team discipline. I think when it comes down to it, when it comes to not making silly pushes or not expending extra lives in a fight or knowing when to back out, I think y'all and Parallax do it the best right now. And I think that's going to cause them to be a favorite in most of the matches they're going to see, not just in Pro League, but in the major next week. I mean, if you can back out of a fight, save your resources, maybe save one or two extra lives, it comes around 7, 8, 9. Next thing you know, the other team's only got one extra respawn for somebody, and they've got to pull them out of the fight. Now you can be a little more aggressive. You can push a little bit harder. I know we didn't get to see it much against y'all until we got to Vascar, because that was just a bloodbath.
Yeah.
But you saw it in fight, like on District. Anytime they pushed against the bulkhead, and they played good defense, and they kept y'all out of the B hill. They kept y'all back across the 50-yard line. I think that was one of the most impressive things to me, and that comes down to that discipline. They used their Lancers. They got that initial damage. I mean, Billy had a fight down at Bandstand where he pushed in, and I don't know what the call out was, but I watched Zeiss show, and I think it was a Bolix. Both turn from info and mid-cut straight down to Bandstand and get like 20 or 30% worth of Lancer damage onto Billy before he could finish his push across the Bandstand. And then he got one shot down, and I was like, to just have that level of just snap decision for Toady to be like, we got to shoot Billy, and then Billy gets shot, and then he's down, and it's like, oh, thank God that worked. Like, they got the 5v4 now they can focus the next person. I think that kind of discipline, to me, speaks volumes at how good of a team they are and now the kind of level they're playing at. So I think Parallax is probably the most feared team outside of y'all, in my opinion, out of the NA bracket.
Would you put Parallax over top of Quarantine, even though Quarantine technically won that match?
I would, for one big reason.
Okay.
I think the question mark for me, I've gotten to see Parallax play at their best, and when they played at their best, they beat y'all.
Yeah.
When I saw them play against Quarantine, they got a little sloppy. They pushed a couple of extra fights, but for the first time, I think in the last 3 weeks, something that I'm not used to seeing, but I finally got to see it, was that team really gelled. I didn't see Mortifies out on that island, out in the front, like he keeps getting called out and put in that weird, awkward position where all of a sudden he's in a fight that he shouldn't be. And I know they kept giving Rushies those favorite 1v1s of his. He kept ending up in those spots where he could either sneak somebody or he could just grab a hold of somebody, hit a couple of bounces, and then take them down. So I think that was probably Quarantine's best matchup. I mean, they played that pretty flawlessly in a lot of areas that favored them. And of course, you got to watch it for a bunch of months now. You know just how damn good Brian is. I mean, you tell Brian to go and do something. I call him the perfect soldier, and I keep making the analogy. Brian will do exactly what you tell him. Not more, not less. But if you tell him to go kill somebody, he's gonna make sure that one person's killed, and then he might just stand there.
Yeah.
Like he'll be like, "What's next, boss?" But like he is the quintessential perfect soldier to me. I think that was their best game. Brian did everything he could to win fights. Morty's was never left out on an island. I mean, when they play y'all, I know you've noticed it, and I don't know if the people at home have ever noticed it. Mortifies ends up in these really awkward fights.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he has help over the top, or he thinks there's a flank coming from the left, and there's just not. Either y'all have crossed the lane out, or somebody has gotten in to clog that lane up, and it's put Mortifies in this really awkward, I'm caught out in the open because I can't take this cover and I'll get Lancer in the back, or I can't take the forward cover because now I've got a shotgun fight and I'm still going to get Lancer in the back. So it's like, you keep him out on those islands, you could get him down, and I think that lends itself to Parallax's game plan. They got to find him, find where he's pushing, take care of the tip of the spear, get him down on lives, take him out of those front fights. Now they got to rotate in Rushies. Now they got to rotate in Brian. Now they got to hope that Icy and Fran can do all those great support fights that they've been so good at handling for so many months now. They've got to bring them into the fight closer now. So I think that's kind of the key to them being better than Quarantine, is I think Quarantine has to play perfect. Yeah. Absolutely perfect. I think Parallax can get away with a little bit of lackadaisical play because they've also won a lot of 1v1s that they maybe shouldn't have, but they keep getting the wins until they don't. It's like telling a wide receiver not to take the 1v1 deep ball. You can't tell him that if he keeps catching the 1v1 deep ball. As long as they're winning those 50-50 shotgun fights, they're going to have the confidence, and they're going to be willing to tell their teammates, go ahead and take it, brother. You've been winning it.
And it's really important, to be able to have that confidence. Touching on what you said about Parallax, and then I'll kind of come back up to Quarantine.
All right.
Something that I noticed in our matchup against them when I watched it back was, especially on District, it felt like they were really prepared to pick one person on our team, whoever was the most out of place, and then execute a strategy where they were going for that person, right? And so when I was watching it back, it felt like I don't know if it was pre-planned, but that spur of the moment shot calling that had to have been involved there, it felt really just cohesive, on point. You could see all 4 or 5 people that were in the area flood to the one spot to kill the one person. Specifically, I remember there was one time we had mental in what we call God spot in that kind of middle corner area near where the E-Hill normally spawns. And all of a sudden, most of Parallax is just flooding him all at one point. And there's no way to really react to that unless you're like prepared for it in advance. So I was really impressed with how they were handling their kind of retakes, how they were handling their strategy. They played very passive. They played very like control the pace at, they did the double cap strategy, or which is, something that's becoming more and more popular on District, Asylum.
You can say it. More and more annoying. You can say it.
It's awful. I've made tweets about how much I just despise this meta of, double capping and triple capping your home, which unfortunately is something that we started on Icebound. So, screw me. But
hey, look, hey, don't forget, as Bill Belichick once said, if you can get away with it, glory to you. But the second somebody finds out, calls you out, or starts copying you, now we got to shut that shit off. Just like he used to do with the special teams, where he'd add the extra linebacker on special teams for an extra set of hands. It was a beautiful play by him. But anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, I'm really impressed with how Parallax has been playing. I think that they have proven themselves kind of against the odds, I would say, because I wouldn't have had them in the top 4 coming into this pro split. I really think that they're a team that showed sticking together and really putting in the work has paid off. So I'm really impressed by them. I was actually like expecting them to be quarantined when we were watching that match live, because I believe they went up like 4-2 the first map and then lost 5-4, and then they went up 4-1 the second map and lost 5-4. So, like that to me is just like a matter of being able to close out the map rather than actually like just win the map straight out. Against us, they were able to, like they got that lead, they closed out that last round. That's like the hardest part, especially because you start to get comfortable, your foot comes off the gas a little bit. So I was really impressed by it. But carrying that on to the quarantine, what you were saying about Brian is 100% true. And that's like one of the reasons why, like when in my video, I talked about how our formula just didn't work anymore. We needed like a secondary voice on the team, and we didn't have that voice. I mean, obviously we have Praised, who can be very loud. He's definitely got a voice, but it's not the leadership voice. Mental can do that, but then again, Mental is also the type of player where he's going to push a 1v2 and you can't slap his wrist and tell him no, because 90% of the time he somehow pulls it out of his ass and wins that 1v2. So it's just like Billy's going to do Billy things. And then, that left Brian and Alex was kind of notoriously quiet, and that left Brian. And Brian, like you said, great, like an amazing player, a great soldier. You tell him to do something, he's going to do it in spades, but we just needed another voice. So I think now with quarantine, he's got Fran, obviously. So that's going to control those initials of the rounds and some of the mid-round plays. He's got other voices with experience in Rush. And I really think that team can kind of come together and use those tools. But, you were mentioning how Mortifies, a lot of times you kind of see him without, respawns. And I think, to me, when I watch their play, it almost looks like he's not comfortable on that team. He looked like he was the star player on Mazer. He had to make plays. He had people who played around him. And now he's going on a team that already kind of has its star players. And I think he's still trying to find his role within that team.
Well, he has to be a blunt object on that. Not a blunt object. How do I put this? He needs to be a finely sharpened object. On Mazer, he could be a blunt object because he could be that hammer. Because, like you said, he had people that were playing around him that would help set up plays for him. Whereas on Quarantine, if you're going to be the championship team in the world, if you're going to be the best team in the world, and I know you know this because you had the best 5 players on your team for a long stretch there. I mean, there was a hell of a long time where y'all had arguably the 5 best players in the world on your team. You know what it's like where toward the end of those rounds, toward the end of those matches, nobody might be able to play for you, goddammit. You got to do it. It's got to be you. So he can still have all those qualities of being that blunt instrument, but there's got to be a sharp edge to the other side of it. Rather than just being a hammer, he has to be more of a halberd, because he can go in there in initials and maybe bang out with somebody and really do the job and get those early initial kills for you. But toward the mid-round, toward the later round, instead of having to have somebody kind of direct you or tell you exactly what needs to be happening, you've got to be able to make that call instantaneously. Boom.
Yeah.
And that's what I think they lack. And that's why I think he keeps ending up in awkward situations, because he feels like he can push something because he's used to having somebody that could lance it for him or could be there over the top. And then next thing you know, he don't. Now he's dead. There it goes.
Yeah. And then he's running out of respawns. And then, I imagine it can't be easy when you look at the Twitch chat as a player or something like that, and you see like Mortifies needs to get dropped, Mortifies is playing bad, if there's Mortifies dead again, and realistically they just don't see the job that he's doing, and the fact that it's still a team game. Whether or not like he's individually out of spawns, there's still other people who can be responsible. You never know, like if he followed a call out and then the call out got changed and he was kind of left, he's the sacrifice because we see an opening to rotate, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how they finish this out, because they actually have a really tough week. I believe they play Hive and Rise, right? So yeah, I
think they play Hive on main stage. No,
they play Rise on broadcast, and then they play Hive off
on
my
second match.
Yeah, so I mean that's a tough week to close it out. I mean, arguably, on paper, that's two of the top teams in North America. And obviously in the standings, that's not true, but on paper, and especially now that Hive is starting to kind of show glimmers of who they were again, and then Rise, who knows how that's going to turn out.
And Rise, every time I start, and I hate to say it this way, every time I start to count Rise out, they beat somebody's brakes. I mean, they beat the brakes off of kids, and I don't know what happens. Every time I'm like, I don't know. Like I gassed them up last week in my predictions. I said, man, Rise is gonna come out. They're doing some great jobs with the way they put Detox and Enzem in fights. I gassed them up a couple weeks ago. They come out flat-footed and they get beat up a little bit, and I'm like, God dang, maybe I shouldn't have so much faith in them. I don't say anything for a week. They come back out, they show out on my stream, and I'm like, Reem's in the chat. He's talking big for his team. He loves his team, and I'm like, my God, what should I just stay shut up about them? If I just don't talk about it, they'll maybe just surprise the world. They'll come out and shock the world. No pun intended. I know his name is Alec now in the game, so no pun intended.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see, because I feel like last week they showed the Rise that we all kind of expect, right? And there was always that joke, especially after the first UMG event after Mexico. They won, and they won like in a convincing fashion. They stomped us. They stomped Quarantine, which we were both new teams, and I don't remember who their other match was. I don't remember if it was PK or who it was. But they looked like, okay, like here's scary Rise again, and then it's since then it's almost been like it's a decline in what you would expect. I don't think they played up to their own standards against us. I don't think they've played up to their. I mean, they lost to PDHM, which nothing against them. That's a solid team. They're obviously a pro league caliber team, but realistically, you put Rise and you put PDHM on paper in front of you, and 9 times out of 10, you would think Rise would win that. So it's just been like, it's almost been like a very odd pro league split. It feels like it's been more competitive than in past, and I don't know if that's because of the combined regions or why that is.
I think the loss to PDHM and like you said, it's no real offense to PDHM. I know those are 5 great players, especially with guys like the way the Reptilians have been playing, the way Tactics has been playing. I don't know if you've been able to see what Tactics and Dazed have been doing, but
Tactics has been impressive.
So with the way that they've been playing, they're 5 great players. I think a lot of people, and especially I think it happened with Parallax early on, before Parallax really came on and people started talking about them, I think it was that look ahead syndrome, especially if you played one of those 2 teams early in your day and then you went to main broadcast and played a Rise, played a Hive, played a UIU later in the day. Mm-hmm. That game was just ripe for the picking for a team like PDHM or for Parallax or now for Vanquish. I mean, Vanquish, they came on with a full head of steam, and I know they're taking it 2 teams. They're trying their damnedest to make everybody feel uncomfortable in every fight, especially with friggin' handles and that Talon pistol. I mean, my God, that's the power weapon. Who would have thought the Talon was the power weapon in the game? All right.
I know the Talon is such a frustrating weapon to play against, and Billy started using it one day in scrims and like going, oh my God, this is so OP. Like he just wanted to try it. So yeah, I mean they've been clearly like kind of playing around with weapon things, and I think they're one of those teams that like you really can't underestimate them, which I'm afraid might have been the case with that first match with Rise versus PDHM. I think they might have been underestimated a little bit, and then got caught off guard, or Rise got caught off guard, and then next thing they know, it's they're down, they're on tiebreaker, because they went to tiebreaker, right? It was your stream, and that was the one that got interrupted.
Yeah, they got interrupted and they took it back over to mainstream because they had issues on mainstream.
So these guys they had to like sit there and wait, and that almost makes it more impressive that they were able to pull that off. But you get underestimated, you come out swinging, and I think this is one of those games, Gears 5 specifically, where any team can beat any team on any day.
And I've always said it, and I know I even said it back in 4, and I know people always laughed at it because of how dominant teams were in 4 compared to 5, how much parity there is here. You still can only play who's in front of you. Like, I don't care if you got 2 games in the day. You should prepare for 1 and 2. You can't look at 1 and say, oh, okay, well, that might be an easier game because 2's against UIU.
Yeah.
You better beat game 1 20 to nothing, or 10 to nothing, just to prepare and make sure everything is precise and as finely tuned as you can for game 2. There should never be a, well, maybe I can get away with this.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of the things I tell people too, is you have to, practice for beating the best, not just, where you're at for your skill level. Like, you want to practice to beat a team like Quarantine, a team like UIU, a team like Parallax, Rise, whatever the case may be, because everyone has that aspiration of being the next championship team. So speaking of championships, there's not really like a playoffs or anything for the Pro League, but they do decide like the seeding going into the online major, and they do decide there's a special prize split for the Pro League by itself. And I believe based on the updates that Gears Esports put out last week, we've secured first, even if we went 0-4 in maps this weekend, because we win the head-to-head against Quarantine. But it'll be really interesting because I feel like, Parallax is not far behind Quarantine, though. I think Quarantine has beat them both times, right?
I think it's like Parallax has to go 4-0 and Quarantine has to go, like, if they lose 1 map apiece, I think it puts them either in like a head-to-head tie where you actually have to go to extra tiebreakers. I think that's what it turns out to be, but it also gives Rise a chance. That's why my final match is such a big one. If Rise 2-0s Parallax and they win their other match and Parallax somehow loses both matches, it puts the standings into a bit of a kerfluffle for those top 3 spots.
Well, if Rise comes to play this weekend and Hive comes to play this weekend, and they both beat Quarantine, and then Parallax wins both of their matches against Hive and Rise and Vanquish, which neither of those are going to be easy matches. I think Vanquish and Parallax kind of match up well against each other sometimes stylistically. But if Parallax comes out and wins both of those, that would put them at 10-4. And if Quarantine lost both of theirs, they'd be at 9-5. So being that they're putting the standings above the actual like point system that they used to be doing, that means, second place is anybody's game still. Rise could still beat Parallax for third, I believe, if Rise goes 2-0 and Parallax goes 0-2. So and then even if Rise goes 0-2 and Hive goes 2-0, or like they come up and take 4th place. So I feel like a lot of standings are really wide open for this last week.
It's the Wild West, and I don't think anybody should miss it. Like, I'm trying to listen to all these outcomes you got going, and I look like that GIF where the guy's got all the math in front of him, all the equations in front of him. I'm like, I don't know how my man just figured all that out. By the way, for the longest time, I was one of the people that only thought about wins and losses. I was like, brother, if you've got the best record, how the hell is you not ahead of another team?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my head, I always just assumed record was the king and queen and the bread and butter of your standings. And then when I saw where they changed it, I was like, okay,
yeah,
all right, maybe, I guess. Well, I guess we're cooking with peanut oil now.
The issue was before the system was flawed and it wasn't exposed until this split, where what they did is every time you won a map, you got a point, but and then your points determined where you were in the standings, but it didn't take into consideration situations where a team could lose series but take a map and get a point still. So they would, even if they got 2-1, they're getting a point from that matchup, and so another team could win more matches, and that's what we saw. Parallax had more matches won than Rise, but less points because they either won or they got 2-0'd. So they had less points, whereas Rise went down swinging every time they lost and still managed to get at least 1 point. And so the point system messed
I always
it
thought
up.
it would go almost like hockey. You know how hockey gets like the half a point for a tie and you get no points for the loss and a point for the win?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought they should do like 0.5 for the maps won. Like, you get 0.5 a point for a map won, so that you could almost guarantee that even if you go down swinging every time, go to map 3 every time, you will never ever beat somebody that is a higher or better record than you. It would be statistically impossible because everything would be worth half a point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I completely agree.
So I think I don't know. That to me would have been a simpler way to do it, but hopefully it all works out now for the best, and hopefully Pro League this week is a banger for everybody. I know we got the EU major going on at the same time, so that's going to have some people maybe jumping back and forth between broadcasts. Maybe they'll join the mainstream. Maybe they'll join my stream when y'all are on it first thing. I know y'all got to wait. That's an early match for y'all. Y'all got to wake up early. I know some of y'all sleeping schedules.
Oh yeah, our sleeping schedules are bad, and our major, like the major that's coming up a week from today, Friday matches are at 11 a.m. Eastern. So, shout out to players.
God bless your soul.
Shout out to players like, Solars and Rezik, who are going to be up at 8 a.m. ready for matches.
Jesus. When I was thinking about what the time constraints would be because of it being online and now we don't have to wait for people to get to the venue and stuff, I was thinking about myself and I was like, Doug, some of these players are just going to bed.
Yeah.
Like your first match is scheduled like 3 minutes after their scrims end on a different game.
Literally.
Come on.
You're not far off, trust me. So I guess with that, we can kind of jump the UMG. We'll go ahead and go into the UMG recap. That won't take too long. I know people are eager for us to get to the hot topic right now, so we'll try to breeze through the rest of these. But the UMG recap. So obviously, we saw another UMG Emergence Days, top 8 teams invited, or top 8 strong pro teams invited. What did you think of the UMG?
So it's a shame because based on a topic we're going to be covering later, 2 of the teams that I was impressed with in the UMG, I might not have the chance to be impressed with them here in just a few short days.
Yeah.
The 2 things that stood out to me the most were Quarantine's how do I put this? Quarantine's late round decision making. I kept sitting there trying to ask myself because I actually had to jump back. And you know how normally with PR, because of the great mind that Jacob is, I get to kind of fall into my play-by-play and do my play-by-play. Well, with reflections, because I'm more of the gears head when it comes to me and Mr. Noble, I fell into the color. So I kept all night, even though I only did the first set of series, when I continued to watch, I stayed in my color mindset. I kept looking at rotations. I kept looking at plays that people make. I mean, in the first match, I even saw where I really thought there should have been a disable out from Fire and Ice when they went up 4-3 on a 4-3 on a sign. I was like, go ahead and take away their extra utility, and then they did, and they gave themselves extra utility. I was like, but it won't a shocker and Sid. You couldn't give yourself something to match them with the extra utility. You should have just taken one of theirs away.
Yeah.
I stayed in that kind of color role. So late game decision making across the board from Fire and Ice, from Quarantine. I mean, it seemed like everybody either they're trying stuff, which I don't want to assume anybody this close to a major, especially in a tournament with prize money on the line. I don't want to assume you're trying anything. I just wasn't following a lot of the decision making. I really feel like people should have made better choices. I mean, especially there was a double push to the E hill when there was no information on where the drop shot was on the map, and I'm shaking my head because I'm like, all right, so you don't know where the drop shot is, but you know they have an incendiary. You double push into the E hill to try to get the quick break. Here comes the incend. If that don't kill either of you, if both of you roll out quick enough,
yeah,
what in God's green earth possesses you to push back into the closet? Like, I don't know. I like Asylum as a map, but some y'all make some decisions I don't quite understand, but that's fine, baby. That's fine. But I think I was impressed with the way y'all came out. I really was. I thought y'all played fantastic all night. I just wasn't. I'm just a little shaky on a lot of other people's decision making. It's hard to question y'all because I think y'all got the biggest brain on the planet, and Kenny, I think that man could probably outthink one of that what's that computer that plays chess so well? I don't know what it's called. But I think if Kenny went head to head with that computer or HAL 3000 in a game of Gears, I think Kenny might outsmart him. I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there. So
yeah,
y'all's decision making didn't really confuse me, but I think PK's did a lot. Fire and Ice's definitely did, and Quarantine did. So it worries me for them coming up in the future. I want to see them in Pro League. I was happy with the way the tournament came out. There was a lot of high-level play, but I need to see them correct those mistakes come Sunday. That's something that I always look forward to, especially because we have UMG 2 days after Pro League. I always look at it as either somebody has the mistake on Sunday they fix it and we see the fix on Tuesday, or they come out the new week, they screw something up horribly on Tuesday, and now we got to see if they fix it come Sunday. You know what I'm saying? I always get curious to see if people are able to make those midweek adjustments.
Yeah, no, a lot of teams, I can tell you, like, matter of factly, use UMGs almost as like a more serious practice. It's a place that scrims are going to be treated like scrims no matter how much emphasis you put on them and how often you do them. But the UMG is a really great tool for us to go like, okay, like we get a chance to, there's egos on the line. There's a little bit of money on the line. So this is a chance for us to really get serious practice where teams are going to be trying a little bit harder than they would in scrims. It might not be the same as Pro League. It might not be the same as, it's obviously not the same as a LAN event. But it's definitely a point where we can be like, okay, like we can see if this strategy will work, or we can see how strong our setups are, or we can see how good this team really is on this map because we beat them 5-1 in scrims. And now we want to see if that was a scrim thing or if they're, that's really where they are on this map. So, I mean, I even tweeted about, like, I wasn't joking. I was using this little app that I have called Tiny Decisions, and it gives you a little circle and you can fill in all the spaces on the circle and spin the wheel. And that's what I was using for our maps, for pick and ban, because I wanted us to be comfortable and not just doing the same old routine of, ban bunker or ban icebound or whatever.
But that's, I mean, and people underestimate how invaluable of a tool that is. I mean, I think I got to talk about it a couple of weeks ago, and I think you've heard a lot of people say it. I think one of the things that made Reciprocity a strong team in those first two majors was that they had such an open map pool. They could pretty much go to any map and feel comfortable on it.
Yeah.
That right there, and hearing how well your team has been playing, and B, to hear that y'all are expanding y'all's prowess of battlefields. Oh, man, it ain't good. That ain't good news for nobody.
Well, I even remember talking to Kenny when he was on Reciprocity, and they were one of the first teams to be banning their auto ban was Icebound. They hated that map, but they would rather have a chance on Icebound, almost like we did in Gears of War 4, where we in Mexico played Forge as our auto ban, but we didn't have a choice. We were losing Slab. So it was that same concept of like, okay, like we have a chance on Icebound because we don't practice it. So, maybe this is just like a time where we can, if we don't know what we're doing, then they don't know what we're doing. Or we can just automatically lose Exhibit because they're the best team in Exhibit and nobody beats them on Exhibit. So we would just lose that. And so they would ban Exhibit against us instead of the auto ban, and then they would play Icebound. And
that's, I still think that's the good way to go, is always take away your opponent's strongest map. I've always hated the idea of trying to get to your strongest maps with your picks and bans. I've always looked at picks and bans, if I was on the other side of the card, being like, guys, let's just take away their best play toys.
Yeah.
Let's try to make this as uncomfortable for all of us. Even if none of the 10 players have any idea how to play the map, well, then we got a 50-50, baby. We're flipping a coin as we go out of the spawn.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you have to do as a team. It's something that I think is, I'll use another team as an example. I think it's a glaring weakness for Rebels. One of the only map that I think every team in the Pro League fully respects them on is Asylum. They're just weirdly good at Asylum, and it's not like they do anything special that we've noticed. It's just some reason on Asylum those players clutch up when it matters, and they win that map pretty much against everybody, right? So knowing that, we could either ban an auto ban or a map that we don't like, or we could take them off the one map that they put up a fight against everybody on. It doesn't matter who you are, and then see what they do out of their comfort zone. And I think that's a glaring weakness of that team. And I think there's some other teams like that who don't use pick and bans as a strategy thing. They just use it as, okay, well, we hate this map, so we're going to ban it every single time. And we really like this map, so we're going to try to pick it every single time. And then we also hate this map, so that'll be our second ban. I think if you really do your research, it almost becomes a little bit of a chess match.
Yeah. And I think you've allowed me to be privy to some of your conversations where you've come to me and you said, Colin, what do you think of this? And you'd tell me, you'd kind of give me the hints of how you thought of something, and I'd give you my answer, and you'd be like, thanks for playing into my hands. Have a nice day. And I'd be like, I was the other coach, wasn't I? And you were like, you were the other coach, Colin. You did exactly what he did, and you played directly in our hands. And I was like, well, that's why I got a microphone in front of my mouth. All right, that's why I'm not doing anything other than spitting hot air at people for a couple of hours.
Yeah, we've definitely played some pick and ban games. I know, you're one of the only people who's seen my secret black notebook. Speaking of tournaments upcoming. We've got the EU finals, and this is the league. Like this is the championship of Europe, right? Coming up this weekend.
This weekend is their major. They are playing what we will be playing next week. It's going to be put on by EGL. They're going to have one of the oldest school voices in Gears, one of the most respected people I think in Gears too is Toby Campbell. He's returning to a Gears major broadcast. They're also going to have, of course, Frew and Tunney. I think the three of them, along with EGL, are going to put on a hell of a show and a hell of a performance. I mean, you've said it yourself. EGL has done a fantastic job all season of really making it feel like they are the top-notch production to put out there.
Oh yeah, easily.
They're gonna kill it. I think they're gonna kill it.
I agree, and that whole talent team, honestly, I love the European Pro League broadcast. I like watching, even if the matches aren't super interesting. Even if it's Obey versus Regal, right? It's not a super interesting match.
God rest Obey's soul.
We'll touch on that. But just the casting team is so good. They do such a good job of not only talking about the game and not straying off, but making it entertaining and providing insight. So definitely a tremendous shout out to that whole team, and adding Toby into the mix. I was a huge fan of his when he worked on the casting talent team in Gears of War 4. So I'm excited to see. Maybe I'm just biased towards the British accent. Maybe that's what it is. That European.
Well, I always tell Frew, I'm like, because he and I play a lot of rank together, and I always make the joke to him. I'm like, dog, I don't know what it is, but I usually question everybody else that I play with. They'll tell me a call out, and I'll question it. Every time you say it, and I think it's the accent, I'm just like, yes, sir. I'm like, all right, I'll get you that damn flag. I swear, for God, because we've been playing a lot of Gridiron, so it always usually revolves around the flag.
So the interesting thing to me will be, is Toby up to date on everything? I don't know how much he actually watches.
Oh, Toby is still the encyclopedia.
Okay.
I actually went to him to ask him a couple of questions about the EU scene, because I wanted to have some insight. I normally watch every week. I keep up with it, and I love the EU scene. I love everybody over there, and it's one of the things where I just couldn't understand what you hinted at, where we'll talk about Obey in a little bit. I kept not understanding how Obey wasn't getting over their humps of winning maps.
Why are they not good?
Stopping? I couldn't get it, because I know all five of those guys, and I know they got some great skill on that team.
Yeah.
I just couldn't figure it out. Toby broke it down for me like a shotgun, had it nailed down like a friggin' marketplace, baby. I was like, so it's this, and he was like, well, Colin, if you look at the way that they rotate on this map, it's different from how the other couple of teams rotate that are their big challenger teams that they play every week in scrims. I was like, so why don't they change? He was like, because they feel like if they adapt to that same, and he kept going into it, and I was like, brother, you are giving me a dictionary. So I know he knows what he's talking about. Good. I know he's up to date on all the teams. It's gonna. I'm telling you, EGL. We got our work cut out for us over here on the NA side. I'm just gonna say that we got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, they always do a tremendous job. I really like their broadcasts, and it surprises me too, because again, Obey is one of those teams where you look at them on paper and you've got recognizable names who we know are talented, so it just makes you wonder where is that ball being dropped? Where is that crumbling apart? It has to be something behind the scenes that we don't know. I mean, do they have a coach? Why aren't they recognizing the thing that you're telling me about that Toby was pointing out? Why don't they have someone who's able to tell them, look, other teams are rotating this way, you guys need to rotate this way as well, or here's how you counter it, or
Break. And it's weird, because I know Breaker's smart enough to see all that. I know Ryan jokingly calls him King Breaker, but Breaker I know is smart enough to see that. Sarky is probably one of the best players in all of EU. If you were to put a controller in his hand and give him the same latency as anybody else on the planet, I could count on a hand the number of players skill-wise that I think would just take Sarky in a 1v1. If that. And I don't even think it would be handle him. I think it would be a close nail-biting to the final round 1v1, because Sarky has a crap ton of skill. I know Rage. I know Rage is a great player, and I kept trying to think. I'm just looking at it. TJ, amazing. He showed out in San Diego. He had a really good event in San Diego, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I'm not sure so much if it's just them not getting it done, or on the flip side of it, are we seeing the improvements on the side of? I mean, we saw Elevate finally get challenged for that throne over there. They finally got taken down by Rated R.
Yeah.
You saw Regal Reserve come out and play every week. They gave everybody a run for their money. Especially they took care of Obey last week in their final matchup, Obey versus Regal Reserve. So I don't know if it's just everybody else improving that much to make Obey be where they are, or if it's just that that group is not coming together, it's not meshing the way. There might be a misingredient or something along those lines. If you catch my drift, I don't know if it's just one or two.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. But I'm sad to hear the rumors and the spark that they were trying to disband, but they were informed that they'd be losing prize money if they disbanded just before the major and decided to play with other teams, so they're going to play with it. I hope they go out with a bang. I really hope they play everybody as hard as they can, and maybe take a couple of maps, maybe give some people some runs for their money so it makes them seem like a threat, even if they still decide to break up after the event. I just don't want to see a bunch of 5-0s. I don't want to see them throw the towel in, so to say, for these next couple of games. That's all I'm praying for.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely come out and surprise people because they get that factor of, we can play like we have nothing to lose. I mean, assuming that those rumors are true and they're not going to be a team for next split, at least that same roster, then I feel like, that's kind of one of those moments where it's like, all right, like screw it, like, push something, literally just, throw a smoke and get loose. So it'll be interesting to see. But, if I'm looking at the stats right here, and it looks like they only won one map
They only won one map in all of spring. Singular map.
And it just like, I look at that roster and then I look at that record, and it just something doesn't add up to me.
Can I switch your viewpoint real quick, because I want to ask you, because I know you've had to study every team that would be a threat to your team, even if you knew a while ago we weren't going to be going to LAN. I know you probably still did your homework. I'm not exactly sure how they're doing finals, especially because they're doing double elimination this quarter, because they've changed it up to be, since it's an online tournament.
Thankfully.
But do you believe, and I think they're still going to do best of fives because of how short the escalation games are now, correct?
I believe so. I believe so.
I think, I'm not sure if I couldn't remember if I saw it or not, but do you think that having that best of five, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, do you think that favors Elevate, or do you think that favors Rated R? Because I know we've always heard that EU kind of gather as a region and all have the same kind of picks and bans all quarter long. So I'm curious if you think that'll favor one team over the other, with the fact that they're going to have to possibly play like 5 out of the 7.
I think that it'll favor Elevate. I think Rated R is a really good team, and I think one of the reasons why they had such a good showing in Mexico is, realistically, nobody in like the North American region, or at least very rarely, do teams get to scrim them. I mean, like they're in the scrim chats, they're available, and we have scheduled scrims against like Elevate before, but often like it's usually the teams that have like a majority of East Coast players that are willing to do that kind of connection thing. And then even then, they're playing on 100 ping if it's an East Coast host. So the connection is bad. You don't know if that affects their play. I mean, like every time a kill is missed that they probably shouldn't have got, that makes you wonder, would that round change or would it be different? So I really think that Rated R coming into Mexico had that kind of underdog, nobody knows what to expect from us factor. And I really don't think a lot of people in North American Pro League do a good job of paying attention to Europe, especially after kind of like the subpar performances that we saw from Elevate in San Diego and then in Mexico as well, similar to us. You know what I mean? So it's...
I mean, look, that assassin came for both of y'all. We all know it. Choche came for all y'all's necks in Mexico City.
Choche's coming for a lot of people's necks, and we're going to talk about that. But I think Rated R really had that like unknown factor to them, right? And they added Marsh, who's a phenomenal player. He has the experience. So they did that between San Diego and in Mexico. So they have that experience now, and probably some leadership from him. But I mean, like I can be straightforward and honest, and like Dragons, he's the one with like the whitish hair and the sunglasses, right?
Yeah. My man Dragons got the style, baby. You can't hate on that.
I have had zero interactions with him, so I had no idea his name was Dragons, and he's been around for a long time until the Pro League started. So like I think and I'm not an ignorant person to this kind of stuff. Like I pay attention, and I knew Dragons was a pro player, but like I didn't know the face to the name. So I think
you saw him and you were like, that's not Dragons.
Yeah, like I thought he might have been one of the players from like the team from Spain in Gears 4 or like whatever the case may be, but he like that kind of example is, they have that unknown factor. And so I think they come into Mexico and they're like, "Hey, by the way, we're actually pretty good at the game and none of you guys know what we do because none of you pay attention to what we do." So, they could have beat Rec. I mean, they really could have. They could have beat Rec.
They had a whole ass shot. I was the one commentating the game.
Mm-hmm. So I think being that this is restricting them to their own region where everybody is very familiar to them and how they play, I think that lets teams prepare more and they don't have that unknown factor that they would have in a global LAN event.
Okay, I understand that. We don't have to. I know for a lot of our viewers, and especially for you and I, because you're preparing for all NA teams, I'm probably the only one that can really, sauce it up about the EU region. If you want to make this one short and sweet, now that you said it, you think it favors Elevate. And I think we're both on the same page. I think we're both on the same page. It's going to come down to Elevate and Rated R, correct? We're both on that page.
Yeah.
And you say it favors Elevate. I'm gonna stick there with you. I think it favors Elevate as well. And if they have to go the full 5, or if they have to go the full 5 out of 7, I think it may favor Elevate. So I think we're on the same page there. So I'm not sure if there's much else we can beat a dead horse on that topic.
No, I think we're done with EU, which means we get to go into what everybody has been fiending to talk about. Yeah, chomping at the bit talk about. Guys, we're going to talk about the LATAM drama. My God.
Is it even LATAM anymore? It had Gears trending. Is it even just LATAM drama anymore? I know it all happened over there, but is it even just LATAM drama?
I don't even know. I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. Like this whole situation is just so mind blowing to me that this is actually a thing that is happening in Gears esports. Like I figured like maybe down the line when there's like some Gears skin betting site like Counter-Strike has or something like that, we might see some match fixing kind of thing. But I don't know. I mean, you and I have been talking about it and like we've been literally saying, sharing information with each other that like we've been catching rumors of on Twitter, and like everything so far has just been like alleged until today, and it just blew up.
But even now, so let me get this out the way because it's something that I want to know, and we saw the tweet from Gears where they are going to release their full statement. I think the date would be Monday.
Yes, they said Monday.
Okay. So they've tweeted out that they're full. Sorry, I'm reaching up to my calendar. I'm looking at my calendar above me.
Up there somewhere.
I gotta put. I put a circle around it and everything. I need to write something in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I know Gears has said that they are going to tweet out Monday what the final, I guess, finding and verdict is. And right now, all we have are the perspectives of. I think it was Raver went live. I think Choche went live for a few minutes. I think Dezo went live.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any? And Monkeys. I think Monkeys went live.
Yeah.
So we know that at least 4 people went live. I'm not exactly sure what any of them said because I don't speak a lick of Spanish. But from the translations and what I've got from those translations, it sounds to me like maybe we could have had a statement, like a pre-statement to try to control the narrative. Because right now, I think you've just got a lot of either conflicting stories or you got a lot of people and a lot of emotions going back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, the whole community is going to lose their minds. We're a very heavy LATAM-based community, and you've got, some of the giants of LATAM allegedly, match fixing, allegedly extortion, and allegedly banned. I mean, from the horse's mouth, banned.
So do you want to lay out what the final verdict is that you've heard? Like just bullet point it for us. Do you want to lay that out so that because I tend to stay out of the drama. I'm more of just a X's and O's kind of play-by-play guy, if you catch my drift. So if you want to just lay out what you've heard, and I'll just give you my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I'll give like what I've heard and kind of the story that I understand so far for anybody in the chat who might not be aware. and then we'll kind of go from there. So we knew the standings going into the last week of the Latin American Pro League had PK solidified in first. There was no way possible for them to not be first place. We had Fire and Ice in second by 1 point over Estral. And the matches were going to be Fire and Ice played the other team in Latin America, which I can't think of the name of right now, EGYX or something like that. And Estral was playing PK. And the way Estral had been playing, it was pretty much assured, and the way PK had been playing, it was pretty much assuring that PK was going to win that match. So apparently, allegedly, the PK roster, and I think it was Desinide, came forward to FNI, or specifically Choche, and offered to throw the match in return for money. Now, the reason this happened was when the roster changes went down, we let go of summons for, I'm not going to say a specific number, but less than 1/4 of what Fire and Ice let go of Raver for. And everyone knows that Raver was 8K, right? So 8K for Raver was the buyout price for that FNI stated, which is, contracts. That's how it works. The orgs are allowed to, say it. PK paid. They took Raver. They're mad because they had to pay 8K for Raver. I don't blame them. That's an insane amount for a Gears player, but every org has the right to make that decision. And they, are bitter about that, right? So there's a rivalry there. Then we get to this situation where now PK is in a position where they can extort money out of FNI by saying, look, if you pay us, we'll beat up Estral like we should. If you don't pay us, then we'll throw the match. They'll get second place over top of you, and you'll lose out on, I believe the difference was $2,000 in prize money. So, it's a good chunk of money. So Choche agreed and supposedly paid them, and then they apparently asked for more money. I heard today they asked for more money as they were getting ready for tiebreaker, the tiebreaker match of the series. And Choche, I don't know if he said no. I don't know if he said yes. They lost the match to Estral, and Estral passed FNI, and now Choche's mad because his money has gone to waste. He, quote unquote paid, allegedly paid for them to win so he could keep second, and they lost. I've also heard that Monkeys didn't want to be involved, so that's why they were chunking Monkeys. I heard that he was trying to actually close out the round or whatever the case may be. I didn't watch the match. And now we're in a situation where Choche's mad. He comes to PGL with his proof, and now they have to investigate. And so he has voice recordings of, supposedly, he had voice recordings, he had transcripts of texts, he had screenshots, he had proof of him being kicked out of chats that he had with them. Because you got to remember, these guys were friends. They used to be teammates back in the Splice days. So he had screenshots of chats of him being kicked out. They blocked his number, things like that. So supposedly, right? This is rumor that I've heard. Now PGL has come out and said that they're going to announce something on Monday, which means something has happened for sure. And the players have all come out and said that the verdict, at least that I've heard, is that Dezo and Choche are banned for 4 months, and both teams are banned from their Pro League prize money and from the online major. So, I mean, that's fucking massive. I mean, that's huge.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take this from a couple of different points. If you'll indulge me, I'll take this from a couple of different points. If I'm Gears, the first thing I'm doing before I even release this statement on Monday is you better have every shred of possible evidence. You better have all sides to the story, and you better make sure that what you put out is the most justified, logical explanation. If that makes sense. If I don't want them to put out a ban for the rest of the season and stop people from earning money if there is something missing, if there is a piece missing, where if now you've gotten caught. Because one of the things that I know happens from my background, from my personal degree, what I went to college for criminal justice, when somebody gets caught, they're more than willing to roll over on the other dude.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to come clean. So you're going to end up, you might hear a lot. And some of it might be hearsay, some of it might be rumor, some of it might be speculation. So Gears needs to make sure they have their ducks in a row, and they got to make sure whatever statement they come out with, it is firm, it is non-negotiable, and there's no gray area. This is the information we were given.
Yeah.
These were the suspects involved. These were the culprits. And here's our decision, and you can't waver from it. Whatever decision you come down with, you better bring it down. You better stay right there. So that's my advice for Gears. I truly believe if you waver or have any gray area, it's going to be a terrible, terrible look and a PR nightmare for the entire, and it's going to leave a black cloud over the entire major.
Yeah, I mean, now, it's already doing that, and I feel like
oh yeah,
the players being able to come out, which I'm shocked that we're hearing from the players before we hear from the official ruling.
I am too. I am stunned.
I think that lets the players control the narrative, and now we have a lot of speculation and a lot of even just reading in my chat, a lot of he said, she said, which in this case is all he said, he said. But you know, we don't know what all the evidence was. You know, we have what Dezo has come out and said for his side, but every story has two sides when it has this kind of interaction. And so we don't know what all of the information is. And realistically, only the people involved will know truthfully all of the information. And realistically, we'll never get the entire picture.
Well, I was telling somebody in your chat a minute ago, and I live by this word whenever, because I do softball tournaments, and I have to hear when I have protests and stuff where somebody believes a play happened in one way and the umpire sees it another way. I live by these words in a lot of situations. There's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. How you interpret something may not be how I interpret it. So you and I might both see a yellow duck crossing the road. Well, you might take two looks at him and say, nah, that's an orange duck. I don't care what Colin says. That thing is orange. Your perspective might be a little bit different from mine. So that's why I said that they have to go strictly black and white. Gears cannot have a wavering standpoint. They've got to get the information. If there's text, if there's voice recordings, whatever it is, whatever they can get that is evidence against one section, one set.
Mm-hmm.
You use that. You bring the hammer down and you say, we will not have you invalidate the competitive integrity of our game. We will not have you endanger that.
Yeah.
They got to turn right back around, though. And even though somebody snitched, whoever it may be, somebody came forward with this evidence, even though they are the ones trying to come forward and be like, guys, we're trying to be innocent in this. This is what happened, and we didn't want to play into it, but we played into it and we didn't want to, but we were putting it. I don't care what the reasoning are. Mm-hmm. The second the original party takes place, you have tampering.
Yeah.
You have a Pete Rose baseball situation where you have a player betting on games or fixing games however you want it. So you're going to get a ban. And whatever the ban might be, they're lucky it's not lifetime like Pete Rose.
Yeah.
It's as bad as when they found out the NBA ref was shaving points for the Mafia. He wasn't costing people games, but he knew that he could play the line. He knew if somebody said to him, you know what, if you call one or two extra fouls, they get one or two extra free throws, we get closer to that betting line, man. I know it says Lakers by 4, but if they're right now, they're up by 6. If you call one more foul on a Jazz and they make both free throws and the Lakers only win by 4, that's a lot of money in my pockets. When you have somebody tampering and you have somebody endangering the integrity, the competitive integrity of your game, they got to go away. They got to go away quickly, swiftly, and they got to go away for a while. I know I sound harsh when I say that, But above all else, if you want to be taken seriously, if you want people to believe that you as an organization, as a tournament organizer, as any part of having and keeping up a game that is at the end of the day played for money, you come down hard, you come down swift, you leave no gray area. You say, I don't care that it was a first offense. I don't care that you're one of the faces of our game. I may to the rest of my days, and especially, and I feel terrible hearing this about Dezo.
Yeah.
I love that man. I picked him for my all-star team. Dezonide is my all-star. I love that guy. I walked up to his girlfriend in Mexico when they were going up against, I think it was Hive, and he made a play, and I was so happy for him because I was at that point. I just wanted to see Dezo get what I felt like was his just desserts because of how hard he's worked for so long. I walked up to his girlfriend. I said, look, I know you speak a little bit of English. I want you to go ahead and I want you to kiss that man because I can't, because that was a beautiful play. All right? That was a gorgeous play. So you kiss that man. But at the end of the day, if you take part in tampering, bring it down, bring the hammer down. I joke around and call it the band hammer, but you got to bring it down swift, hard, fast, and be black and white over it. You can't waver. You can't say this is a first defense. You can't say you're one of the faces of our game in the Latin American society. You've got to say, guys, we will not accept this. We will not have this as part of our game because if you allow it now, it will breed and it will fester, and you cannot have that kind of thing fester in a competitive environment.
100%. You let this mindset get out that, because either you're allowed to get away with whatever may or may not have happened. Well, I mean, something happened. We'll just be clear about that to the chat. Clearly, as something has happened. And the reason I say allegedly, the reason I say may or may not, the reason I say supposedly is because I'm not going to jump to conclusions on my end. I don't think Colin's ever going to jump to conclusions on his end. Something happened. We know that for sure. And what actually happened, what the actual information is I'm pretty much under the assumption that I will never know the full details. And it's none of my business. My business is to make sure UIU wins. My business is not to be in Latin American drama. That being said, if you can't let this precedent, I completely agree with you. The ban hammer has to come down swift and hard. You can't let, just because of a status as a player or a amount of clout that a player has or a fan base, because of an organization that they play for. I mean, we've seen this before. This is not in terms of the actual allegations. This might be new, but in terms of people of a high profile being banned or suspended, this is not new. If you go back to Gears of War 4 when it first launched, there was the top 8 pro team invitational that was held at MLG Studios. And if you guys remember, Praised actually got banned from that event for account recovering on a friend's account for some pro point qualifier thing that he had no need to do. And that's actually when Envy picked up Solars, if you guys remember correctly. So we've seen a high profile player on a high profile org get banned at the start of Gears of War 4 because of something that was clearly wrong and against the rules. In Gears of War 4, we saw Icy and Godplays get banned for, I believe, 3 and 5 events respectively. And Icy didn't even throw a punch. It was because he had the intent to fight. So, yeah, I mean, and then Excels, because of his behavior, got banned indefinitely. So, we've seen that they react seriously to this type of thing. Now we're going more into, this isn't just Gears esports rules. This is we're toying on the line of illegal. You've got, again, like extortion, you've got blackmailing, you've got the match fixing. I mean, this is actually pretty serious stuff.
These allegations go way beyond the controller and the monitor.
Yeah,
way beyond it.
So I think that it's one of those things where, like, we haven't seen this before in Gears. We've seen this in esports. We saw the world's best Counter-Strike team get banned permanently for match fixing, where they placed bets on themselves to lose on second accounts and then lost a match they shouldn't have lost, and they got exposed and they got banned permanently. So this is not a new thing to esports, but for Gears esports, it's a very new thing. It's a very serious thing, and I mean, action is needed one way or another, assuming that everything is true.
I think people lose. I'm trying to think of how to word this. I think people have a hard time separating their fandom from the actions themselves. And for me, I and you heard me start it off. I love Dezo. I don't know what the future holds for him, especially with what might be hanging over him right now. I don't know if he ever comes back. I don't know if he wants to come back for all this. I love him to death. If all these things are true, if allegedly this comes out and he tried to extort money from another human being, if he tried to fix matches and endanger the competitive integrity of something, that's not a very forgivable thing in my eyes. You can't it's hard to come back from that because there's always that stain. Take it from somebody, for God's sake, take it from somebody who's a Patriots fan. It don't matter how many Super Bowls we won. The second people thought we deflated footballs, game over.
Yeah.
It is damn near impossible to come back from having that kind of stigma. It is damn near unbelievably overwhelming to have that stigma of match fixing, of you did this and you endangered the competitive integrity of something you were a part of, whether it be for pittance, for pennies, or for gold bars. You made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it sure as hell won't the best decision of your life if it's true. If it's true, it won't the best decision, and it's going to take forever for that stigma. Just even let's say Monday we find out that Jesus Christ himself came down and touched Dezo on the forehead, and he is clean. He had no part in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's say there's a miracle, because right now the waters look a little muddy, especially with what I've heard he's admitted on his stream, or what he said, not admitted, what he has said on his stream. Excuse me, that's a Freudian slip maybe. But if he were to come down, make him clean, at the end of the day, just because you've been accused of it, just because it has been put out there and your name has become associated with it, it's almost impossible to come back from stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll be right now. I think the people on that team, I honestly feel bad for, and I don't know who's involved, who's not involved. From all accounts, I haven't heard anybody say that Monkeys was involved, that Summons was involved, or that Sleeper was involved.
Yeah.
I feel the worst for those three guys, because now, again, and I've seen it start already where people are doing the hashtag free summons. Summons can come out of this free and clear with no ban, no penalty, no nothing. But people might look at him a little different. People might look at Alex and be, weren't you on that team that cheated?
Yeah.
Weren't you on that team that got accused? And I love Alex. Excuse me, excuse me, chat. I'm a little emotional because I stay out of the drama, and this kind of hurts me for somebody that loves him, that loves Dezenite as much as I do.
Yeah.
So I apologize for the misslip, the missaying on who's actually on the team. I apologize, chat. But anyway, it'll be hard for these other players if they were not involved. I don't think, especially because it has to deal with possible real life issues. I know people are going to continue to ask for the actual proof, for the actual screenshots, for the actual evidence, because of the fact that it actually entails a possible real life issue.
Yeah. I
think you have to hold that close to your chest, because I think that would be tampering with an ongoing investigation. Because I think as a tournament organizer, as a company, Gears Esports, the Coalition, Microsoft, all that, they kind of have to hold on to this until it is seen all the way through. Because if you're found to be harboring or allowing things that break real world law, not my video game law, a lot worse shit can happen. So I don't think you're going to get to see any proof until everything's been handed down and thoroughly, researched and gone through. So I don't envy the spot that Gears and the Coalition and even Microsoft is in right now, because again, if it has real life complications, you have to make sure that it is done thoroughly enough to make sure that you can't be held in any way, shape, or form responsible as even like a third party. It's that whole guilty by association type deal. So I think that's why we won't see any proof for maybe ever. I don't know what we'll see, if we will see anything. But at the end of the day, I just feel horrible for some of these people, and I feel worse for the game that I love and that I get to commentate, because this is not a it's not a happy day.
Yeah, no.
It's not a day that anybody should celebrate. I mean, it's not. I know people might. This is gonna sound weird, Ashes, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. I know people might think that you and your guys might be cheering because PK was giving y'all a lot of struggles in the past couple of weeks, but I guarantee you, if I asked you or if I asked any one of your players, I'd be willing to bet my life and soul and well-being. I'd be willing to bet every penny to my name that if I sat the six of y'all down and said, would you rather win this next tournament with or without PK in your way? And I guarantee all six of y'all would say, we want to beat them. We want to beat quarantine. We want to beat every mother they could put in front of us. Y'all don't want no easy road to no goddamn trophy. I guarantee you all six of you would rather have PK in this. And it's just it's a sad day, because the people at home are probably going to miss out on what could have been probably the best finals we've had in Gears 5 yet, if it had played out the way that I think a lot of the bet odds were going. Excuse my pun, but
Yeah.
a lot of the bet odds were going that it'd be y'all and PK, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, and you're right. Like any team, if you ask any team, it's not like a bullshit PR answer. We do, like, we're competitors, like we want to play the best, we want to beat the best. Otherwise, there's always that asterisk. Like for Rex wins, there was that asterisk. Well, you didn't play UYU/NRG. So like there, when Ghost did that in Gears 4, there was always that asterisk. So like no team wants that. There's nobody wants that doubt of like, well, you didn't play this team and they beat you in that one UMG tournament or whatever. So you're 100% right in that regard. What I'm worried about and concerned about, I think almost more so, by the way, thank you to everyone who's followed and subbed to the stream. I haven't been able to read those off, but thank you. What I'm more worried about is this is not like a one and done kind of thing. This is not just one isolated, we're going to talk about it for a couple days and then we're done with it. There's going to be like an earthquake, right? Or like a hurricane. Like there's going to be aftermath of what this whole like catastrophic event is. And I mean, this hurts the Latin Americans. I mean, this is the top two of the top teams in Latin America. So, I mean, we don't know what the rulings are yet. We don't know what the evidence is. We don't know what the actual full story is. We've heard what Dezo has said on his streams. We've seen what Choche has put out there. But, this, you could see things like Mimi just said in chat, like we could see organizations leave the scene, especially if we have players on Twitter talking about they're done with Gears. I saw Idenov say that. I saw Dezo say that. Choche say that. Does that mean Fire and Ice stops supporting Gears? I don't see them doing that because they still have other, like assets in Gears. But I mean, how does that affect the Latin American Pro League for next split? How does that affect the World Championship? How does that affect the players who may or may not have been associated with this? I think there's so many like waves of things that we haven't even started to talk or consider or deal with because it's so fresh, it's so new. Like the hurricane is coming through town right now. Now we got to worry about the water damage. Like obviously things are destroyed, but things are going to be soaking wet too. So like what do we do? You know what I mean? Like I think there's going to be a lot of stuff after this that it's going to hurt the scene as a whole. And to comment on what you said, Dezo has shown time and time again what a class act he is. We saw
I mean, right there at the end of Mexico.
Literally at the end of Mexico, coming out and talking to the crowd and saying, please don't boo them. They played hard. They won this. Like that made me earn unparalleled amount of respect for Dezo as a player and a competitor. And I've never seen or heard a bad interaction with Choche other than when he's worked up being a player. So like that doesn't count. So it's like one of those things where it's almost hard to believe.
Somebody else I feel terrible for, and it's because I don't know them personally. I've met I've met some of the owners for Fire and Ice, or I've met the owner for Fire and Ice, I believe back in Boston, or one of the owners for Fire and Ice, one of the investors, I think is the word I should use. But I've met Souls before. I believe I met Zoner. On the other side, I met the PK owners, or at least the investors that were there at Mexico City. I don't know if you had a chance to meet them, but they loved the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
They were so excited to be there. They actually had one of them brought their kid that was like probably like 10, 11, 12 in that area. It was a younger kid. But that kid, man, looked like he looked like he had gone to Willy Wonka's. Like he was in love with the atmosphere, with the hype, with the
Mm-hmm.
passion, with everything that was going out. I feel bad for those two orgs because they, like, I hate to say this, like the players did this, but I don't know if it will escape the orgs as a taint a little bit, because it's just the association right now. I think the worst thing you can get is, or I think the best thing you can do, and again, people are going to say that I'm going to be cutthroat in this. If I'm Fire and Ice, I either figure out what players I'm not going to have and move out, or like move out of it, like get the players out of there and hit the restart button.
Mm-hmm.
If you got to go to PK and get what's left of PK and max it with what's left of Fire and Ice to try to make a super LATAM team, maybe pick up somebody from Estro, I don't care. If you're Fire and Ice, figure out what you got left and move on, and try your best quickly to publicize away from this.
Yeah.
If the owners of PK choose to stay, if they, just like the owners of Fire and Ice, if they all choose to stay, if I'm PK, I do the same thing. And they've got no better poster boy in the world to build a team around. If he's innocent, I'm sorry, excuse me for burping.
You're fine.
if they choose to stay, they have no better poster boy in the world than Summons.
Yeah.
Here is Alex. Build 4 people around Alex. I officially have probably one of the 3 most popular teams in the game, because I started with probably the 2nd most popular person in the world.
Yeah.
Not just the game, the world. I said it. Alex is probably the most popular person in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. I don't know anybody that hates him.
Him and Identivs are easily, just because of the size of their fan bases, their ability to connect, they make content. I mean, they're like Summons is a good guy. And that's something else that I've seen in the chat too, is, if it's just one person, if it was only Desinide, and I don't know what happened, and I don't know, like, assuming that the rumors are true, it's hard to believe that that's not a conversation had with the team, especially if there's a rumor going around of, Monkeys didn't want to be involved. That means he would have known. So, is it something where, for example, Dezo's trying to jump on the grenade for his team? Is that why Danny said he is also quitting Gears? If he's not, one of the people getting banned, we don't know what happened or what the sentence is. It seems to me hard. It seems hard to me, or hard to believe to me, that it's only one person for each team. Somebody had, like, even with our team, right? Like, even when my guys are trying to be sneaky and do something without telling me, I know they're doing it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the people who are with you, and all these guys know each other. They've been teammates for a while. Mine is Alex and Raver coming onto the team within the last month. It seems very hard to believe that it was only one person involved. But then if the screenshots and the conversations or whatever proof is out there that they have only show an interaction between 2 people, then, that's all PGL has to go on. The rest of it is just, again, he said, I guess.
Yeah, it becomes allegations because you have no physical evidence.
So
I'd hate to quote that bitch Carol Baskins down in Florida, but without a body, you can't, there's no charge if you ain't got no body, man.
So then, then it becomes how is this ban going to be handled if there is a ban? Assuming that what Dezo has said, or Choche, I don't remember who, assuming that what they said is true, where it's the 2 of them are banned for 4 months and the teams can't play in the majors. how does that affect those teams? Because like I've seen the, the like, oh, PK looking for one, FNI looking for one. Well, if they can't play in the majors, I mean, they're not really looking for one immediately, right? It's going to be looking for one after the major for Worlds.
Yeah.
So it's just it's going to be really interesting to see when Monday comes around what the actual ruling is. And I think my fear, along with what I've said before about like what the repercussions are, is going to be how much this community twists what are facts, what are opinions, what are Dezo statements, what are Choche statements, what are everyone else involved statements into the narrative, rather than being, coming from the coalition or Microsoft or PGL saying, here's the proof that we have, here's the research and the investigation that we did, here's the results that we have found, and because of all of that, here is the sentencing. See you all at the major, except for the two of you.
except for blankety blank diddy blank blank blank. But no, it's like I and that's at the end of the day, you and I kind of we made light of it right there, and we're laughing at it. And like we said at the start of it, it's not a laughing matter. It's a very serious thing. I pray to God that it's not as bad as I've heard, and I pray that everybody knows I'm a bit of a religious man, and at the end of the day, you get right with somebody, ask for forgiveness from somebody, and I'll pray for everybody. I won't stop. As much as I would hate to know that there's some kind of competitive tampering, I'll still pray for those people, because at the end of the day, they're human beings, and they probably did what they thought was right in the time, even though it's not right ever. It's never right to tamper with competitiveness, but it's one of those things. I know I'm not normally lost for words, but at times I'm thinking about the situation. I come to a loss for words, because I think about it and it breaks my heart
it's a tragedy.
It breaks my heart for so many reasons.
Yeah,
so many reasons.
It's a tragedy. I think about the fans in Mexico, and it sucks to know that the people that they cheer for showed a different side of themselves. And I've seen again people in the chat talking about how like Dezo went on Dome stream and supposedly claimed that it was just them joking around. But how does it escalate to a point? It's very easy to say like, oh yeah, we were just kidding. Like, I was just trolling. That's a very common, easy excuse that we see on social media all the time. Even in Gears, I get teabagged all game, and I was just trolling, bro. I'm a big fan of UYU. All right. So yeah, it's a weird way to show it. So it's just, again, like for me, it's hard to pass any kind of judgment, and I don't want to, especially in this case where I respect the players a lot. I mean, Alex is still a little brother to me. So it's just, it's crazy. It's actually crazy.
I'll be interested to see what the final decision is on Monday, and whatever comes out on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. I hope it has some finality to it, because even though I'll be interested to see how it all comes out, I'll be just as happy and just as interested to move away from it and get to the major, because come hell or high water, a week from today, people are going to be going to war over a lot more than just a possible 2K. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And it seems like such a very ridiculous reason, like a petty reason to start this whole thing. I hope that as a community, we find a way to move past it. And I think the biggest thing that will decide that is if PGL and the coalition come out with a healthy amount of transparency, which hasn't always been their strong point. I'll be the first to criticize them of that, but it is something that they did when we had the Orbit situation and when we had the Mazer situation with Sneaky and Speedy. They did provide a good amount of transparency and clarity on the things. So whenever I see League of Legends and Riot have to get involved with competitive rulings, it's very transparent. It's, here's the allegation, here's the evidence, here's the investigation that we conducted, here's our findings, here's the results. We don't give a shit if you believe us or not, but that's what we're doing. So With something this serious, I think you're going to have to provide something to kind of quell that thirst of everybody that everybody has, of like that need for information, that need to know what the screenshot said or what the voice recording was or what, whatever proof there was.
And I don't need the actual voice recording. Give me a transcript.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me something. I don't need to actually hear people's voices. It's just they do need transparency with this, and I'm praying we get transparency, because as heavy as this is, if you try to hide behind your reasoning, you're gonna have such a huge portion, especially as rabid as those fans are in the Latin American scene. If you're not transparent with this, you're not like, look, your boy's messed up, or your boy messed up, or whoever messed up. If you don't give it to them straight out, you're gonna have some.
I mean,
God bless those moderators during the major. That's all I'm gonna say. God bless them.
I mean, we've been streaming for an hour and 30 minutes, and I think I've already seen 2 accusations that it was UIU causing this. So, we definitely need to give the fans something at some point.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it, Nick. That haircut's a little suspect right now, all right? That's what it is. That's what's causing you to look guilty, is that haircut.
I know. I'm looking like the guy who would sabotage like a NASCAR race with this like mullet that's starting to grow back here. But
well, I was gonna say you look based on our current employer situation. You look more like you was in the middle of a Romanian turf war. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the Gears arms dealer.
That's right, baby. That's what people would probably refer to you as, based on your recent acquisitions down there in UIU. You're the arms dealer.
Yeah, really. We stole weapons.
You only had 2 nukes in your pocket. You wanted 5. Is that what it was?
Yeah, we purchased some weapons of mass destruction from Reciprocity.
Boom. That's terrible. Good night, everybody. Tip your waitresses.
Yeah, guys. I mean, and again, to clarify, we're laughing. Now it's a very serious matter. It's something that we're taking very seriously. I mean, Colin and I talked before we started this episode about how we had to tiptoe some lines of how we word this. So I think my advice to the community, whether you guys want to hear it or not, screw it, you're gonna hear it. Don't, just because you're a fan of Dezenide, I'm a massive fan of Dezenide. Just because you're a fan of PK or Identivs or Alex or Choche or FNI or whatever the case may be, don't start. Even if they come out and directly say things like apparently Dezo has, like Choche has, don't believe everything, because like you said, there's 3 sides to every story. Please just wait until we know the facts, and don't start causing a riot. Like if Choche is getting, I'm worried for him. These are passionate fans, and if he's ratting on people, he's a snitch. Then
my man just said rat and snitch in less than 6 words, ladies and gentlemen.
If that if people are looking at him in that situation, like people in real life, they get put into protective custody for that kind of thing. So it's I'm worried about him. But it just please use brain cells, use common sense. Don't pass judgment on whatever has happened or has been said, because the reality of the situation is not a single person in this chat, unless Choche or Dezo are watching, was in those text chats or in that call that was recorded or whatever the case may be. So
Imagine.
Yeah, so let's just like relax.
I think Choche is in the chat.
He very well could be, but we don't know. Let's let the information come out and go from there.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. You want to wrap this sucker up. You want to get back. You want to get in the cover and get back away from this 4-pointedness. You want to try to get back to full health.
Yeah. I'm done being 4-pointed. All right, guys. Thank you everybody who has tuned in. Shout out to everyone who has followed the stream and subscribed to the channel. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate the support. It's obvious that we kind of benefited from there being a little bit of drama today for the launch of our show. But I promise you, this has been in the works. This is not just oh shit, let's do a show. So thank you guys. We're planning on doing this weekly. We should be back next week with another episode before the major, hopefully, depending on Colin's schedule. He's a busy man.
No. I'm making sure I make time for this now. Look, I told the wifey, and she looked at me. She goes, that man's always so nice to you, and you don't make time for that man. I said, I'm trying to make time for that man. She said, you better sit your ass in the chair and make time for that man. I said, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, shout out to your wife for having my back on this one.
Yo, I want you to know, she got, when it comes to my schedule, that's the person you get in touch with. If you go to Andrea and you say, Andrea, we need Colin at this time and in this place, so he's going to tell you a yes because I'm free or a no because I'm being a dad and a husband. Those are the only two options you got.
Yeah. You're a good job of it. So, guys, again, thank you all so much for watching. The full rebroadcast will be on my YouTube channel. I see links are going up in the description. I also see the recommendation of getting Choche and Dezo on a call to explain their side of things. So maybe we can plan that for next week. All things considered and permitting. So, we'll try to plan that out. But thank you guys so much. That's going to be it for this episode of 4 Pointed. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay healthy, stay safe, and Colin, anything else?
Love each and every one of you. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Tip your waitresses.
Later, guys.